Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Angel live stream. I'm Allie. I'm your host tonight. Tonight, we will be talking about The Lightning Code. It's an electrifying movie made for every member of the family, young and old. It is so fun for everybody. It tells the story of the young inventor Miles Fletcher, who unlocks the long lost secret to limitless energy. But when the greedy Luxus Corporation tries to steal his invention, it's a race against time as Miles and his friends band together to fight back. It's quite the journey. It's a really fun watch, and it's streaming right now on the Angel Guild. So after this stream, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely be sure to check that out. You can go to angel.com/lightning live to see that. Again, that's angel.com/lightning live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about this film, but we're also joined by some guests. So you're not just hearing from me. We are going to be talking with um, amazing members of this team. So we have the director of the film, Callie Bailey, Joel Edwards, who's the executive producer, Rose Reed, who played Kennedy on the film. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd
Hi.
love to, hey, I'd love to have you guys kind of start off today just introducing yourself a little bit more to our audience at home, maybe telling them a little bit more about, the part you played in this film, how you got involved. Maybe Joel, can we start with you?
Sure. Hey,
Great.
Alec, great to be here. So I am one of the executive producers, and then also throughout production, ended up producing as well. The film went through several different cycles of shooting, and we had some reshoots, and really a lot of work in post and kind of reshooting certain elements to hone it in for our audience. And indie films are really ambitious, hard things to do, especially a movie like this. This is a very bold, ambitious story. You know, it takes place in the future. There's a lot of technology involved. This would be a very expensive studio movie. If one of the big studios was going to do this, this would be tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. They would spend a lot on it, and we didn't have that. And so it was just very ambitious, and it kind of took all hands on deck to make this happen and to bring this whole world and this story to life. So got to do it with an amazing team, Kaylee and Rose here, and so many others. Our producing staff, our entire production team, our editor, our post team. This literally was a true passion project, a labor of love to make this thing, to bring it to screens, and now to bring it to you guys. So if you don't love this business and you don't love telling stories, you get out of it quickly. So a true passion project, true labor of love.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Kaylee, can we go to you next?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kaylee Bailey. I am the director of the film, but I also wrote the film with Rose. So my involvement was just from the very beginning when Julian and Rose came to me and said, "We have this idea for this movie." And then I got to jump in and kind of see it from day one. So Joel has said all the things as as usual, he's very well spoken. So I yeah, I this is like my dream movie to make. It's got kids, it's got robots, it's got action and adventure, and I was just so excited to be brought on board and help Julian and Rose bring the thing to the screen, and then work with incredible filmmakers like Joel. So that is an easy segue into Rose.
Yeah, I'm Rose. I play Kennedy Blake in the film, and I also was a co-writer on the script along with Kaylee. And yeah, I would just follow up all of that by saying that this was one of the most collaborative projects I've ever worked on. It really wasn't that one person showed up with a story and with an idea. someone did show up with, hey, this is the basic thing that we want to do, but then it became partially Kaylee's movie and partially Joel's movie and partially everyone who touched it. And we all kind of got to breathe life into it and say, hey, I really think that this should happen. I had plenty of ideas that I was able to put into the script, and plenty of them that were shot down for better ideas. And that's just part of the process is you get to the best idea wins. And for the most part, you try not to let there be any pride in it, and you just say, hey, that's probably a better idea than mine. And that was something that I really enjoyed about this whole experience, was the learning experience of it, and getting to really have that collaborative process be such a big part of this project, but also that it did really feel like I learned so much, and I became a better screenwriter, I became a better actor through this process. And yeah, I'm just really thankful that we all kind of got to band together and create it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, everybody. And also thank you for joining us tonight. Um, Something that I loved about the Lightning Code is that it was, geared towards the whole family. Um, as a team, I mean, I know you were just saying everybody kind of was able to come together and bring ideas and really, work together to create this film. But why was it so important to you guys that we have more movies that are for everyone? And were there any challenges that came from trying to accomplish that in this film?
Yeah, I would say 100%. There's going to be a lot of challenges anytime you make a movie. There's a
Yeah.
famous quote that any movie that's made that actually gets finished is a miracle. And there are so many different little mini miracles that happen along the way in making the big one of it actually being done and actually getting out and people seeing it. I think that everything that everyone's already touching on is just the key of partnerships and in working together as a team and bringing different ingredients together, all in service of trying to make the best thing together. And that, like Rose said, only works if you can, be humble and not come in with, too much ego or too much pride or too much, kind of headstrong artistic passion. Really have to test things together and try things together. One of the reasons why the movie took us so long to complete it and finish it, and we had so many reshoots, is that as we rushed into a script, the script was finalized within what was it, guys, like 3 to 4 months before we started shooting.
Four
So
months.
really
Yeah.
rushed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, four
Wow.
months. So that's not a lot of time. Most
Yeah.
scripts are 4 years. Truly, they're 4 years or longer. And
Mhm.
Julian, who is our my producing partner and Rose's dad, and wonderful guy, passionate about making movies, made several movies with Rose and others in the past. We had another film together, Surprised by Oxford, that is also on
Yeah.
Angel. And it's a wonderful film. He was a producing partner on that. And when we talked about Lightning Code, there were so many big ideas. It was just one of those, like, if you read the original script and outline and you put it to a budget, it's, for indies it's just impossible. And so immediately we're
Hmm.
trying to figure out how to problem solve. And in that original script was a more, it was geared towards an older teenage and adult audience. There
Okay.
were more dramatic themes. There was more heavy scene work, and it was just a very different script. And as we shot the film and edited the film, and you rush through the script process, you start filming. The way that we work at our studio is we edit simultaneously. So they're shooting on day one. The next day when they're shooting day two, day one's material is being assembled and is being edited.
Oh,
And so
nice.
it's a really parallel, cohesive process, and it allows us to be efficient. So if things go wrong, like, we can get back there and fix it quickly, and we can see what's working right and if there are adjustments that need to be made. And as we went through this process, we were realizing we've got a story with a young adult, really kind of pre-18, so a 17-year-old with a band of best friends who are all kids, a sidekick who's a
Hmm.
robot, who's a toy, Like this is this is a kids movie. This is, this as it was coming together, we just realized, hey, it's so much more important that some of these themes we're going to have to pivot on and change. And I think that comes from, rushing through the script process right into production. Um,
Mm,
some of those things weren't tested yet, and that's all something that we all signed up for as a team. And so,
yeah,
um, long way of saying from our perspective is we realized that if we were going to have um, themes for children, you really have to create a identity of the movie and of the characters and cut some things out. And so this was a real time learning process. We also, while we were filming, were seeing a change in the industry that there wasn't really a product, a movie, an experience for a young kid and an adult to go really enjoy together. Obviously, some of the big
yeah,
Pixar films and some of the big animated movies try this, and they're trying to have funny jokes for mom and dad and kind of make things interesting for them, but also, provide characters and a storyline and something engaging for the young ones. And it's hard to do, especially in a live action format and one that's dealing with a storyline that we are. So it was a really difficult thing. It was nuanced, and it took a process of really honing in. But we realized it early on, and then just continued to iterate. We wanted to make something special that everyone could enjoy, that had themes for children and themes for their parents. We wanted
hmm
to bring them together and actually give them an experience. Because I think that right now in culture, everyone's kind of just watching their own thing. They're on their own streams and their own feeds and their own curated list of things. And we were like, could we bring the family together? Could there be themes for everyone, learnings for everyone, something that resonates? And that's what we tried to do.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of that a little bit and just say that I think too, something that we kind of all discovered, or at least I discovered, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but the thing I kind of discovered as a writer is that a lot of times you don't bend the story to your will. You want to as a writer. You come in thinking you know what the story's about. You shape the story. You are the writer, so you kind of have that. You have a little bit of that complex coming in. But I think that a lot of times stories, especially as Joel was saying, when it comes to particular themes or particular characters, and they have a shape that they want to take. And if you try to move them out of that shape, they're like a rubber band. They're going to go back to that shape, and you
mm,
can fight it, but it's not going to be comfy. And so I think that, as we were kind of trying to, like Joel said, we were moving really quickly. We were just really passionate about the project. And when we were moving so quickly, we were trying to make it into something that we wanted it to be. And it didn't want to be that. It did want to be this exactly what it ended up being, which is very fun. It is this little bit younger of an age group, but it can still be enjoyed by, like
yeah,
Joel said, adults and teenagers and things like that. So I think that we found the balance there, but that was a really huge learning process for me, was that you can't always like just bend it to your will. Sometimes you have to submit to the fact that this is the story, this is what the story wants to be, and this is a story that needs to be
mm,
told.
And
wow,
I'll piggyback off your piggyback.
Perfect.
There is like a saying in filmmaking that there's three movies that you make. It's the one you write, the one you shoot, the one you edit. And
mm,
I would say that that's certainly true. That in this
Mm,
case, where the film we wrote was obviously we had to adapt for what we could actually shoot on an indie budget for what we wanted to do. And then when it got into post, it had multiple identity changes throughout post.
mm,
mm,
And like Rose said, to be able to roll with those and be like, it kept kind of refining itself and refining itself to the point where it's like, this is a kid's movie. This is not Stranger Things. This is for kids. And I think once we kind of all accepted that and just went, right, Newt is for kids, then everything kind of started locking itself down as far as tone and style. And it took a lot of work to get it from what was shot, which was more of an adult
mhm,
theme for teenagers, into what it is now, which is a little bit more kid friendly and oriented. And that is in large part due to the work of Zach Pritchard, who is our editor, did an amazing job. So, um, yeah, I would just close with that in agreement that it was a lot of different movies before it landed on this one. So, and it was the best shape that it needed to be. So,
Well, and what I love about it is that everyone on our team together went on that journey. And there were some really big ideas in the first couple drafts of the script that as we got into budgeting and pre-production, we're like, we can't do that. You know, it looked awesome on the
Mm,
page and everyone was excited about it. But as we pursued, you know, pre-production, it had to change for
mm,
logistics or for, you know, budgetary reasons. And then there were a lot of things that we tried that we knew were ambitious, knowing like, hey, if this doesn't work, we'll go back and rewrite and reshoot. And that's one of the beautiful things about, you know, we did the whole production for the most part here in Tennessee. Everyone was local. Everyone was willing to come back out. It's not like we had to go, you know, into the mountains in Arizona and we had 2 weeks and that was it.
yeah.
So we really did have some flexibility with that process. But so many people along the way, as we got into the edit, even real time while filming, helped us shape it and reshape it and reform it. Certainly, Zach Pritchard, our editor, also our co-executive producer Ken Carpenter, who we also did. You know, he was the producer for Surprised by Oxford. He
Mhm.
produced on
Yeah.
The Shift with Rose as well. So he's
Mhm.
done a
Hmm.
lot with Angel. Incredible producer. He saw an early cut and was like, "Guys, like, let me steer you in a different direction." So it was that level
Okay.
of input and insight and partnership and everyone kind of serving the story and helping us hone this thing in. So it was really truly a team effort in that. And the most beautiful thing is at the end of all that time and literally 2.5 years, and I don't know how many reiterations that we did. When we all watched it for the final last time, we're like, "Hey, we're proud of that." And it took a long way
Mm,
to get there, but it was the right. You know, sometimes the long path, the hard path, is the right path. Um,
yeah.
and that was true of our story, you know. So it was like that's the story of our hero in the movie, and was also true of the filmmakers in the production, which was pretty fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Um, so you guys mentioned a character I want to ask about. Newt, our super fun, cute robot friend. I loved his character. I would love to know how you came up with him. Was he always part of the story? And then I don't know, why did you feel like he'd be, excuse me, an important addition to the storyline you were trying to tell?
Kaylee, I'll let you
Um,
take that because I can't
yeah,
remember.
well,
I'm
I'll say this.
spacing.
I was gonna say, um, so at the very beginning of this whole thing, Julian was like, I want three things. I want this movie to be about technology. I want it to be, oh, there's me talking about it. I want it to be about technology. I want it to be about this genius inventor, and I want a practical robot in the movie. And there he is. There's Newt, our practical robot. Um, so it started out, I mean, Rose named him and gave him his personality, and that has kind of just stayed throughout the entire process. And then I started doing little doodles and sketches, which we then collaborated with Davis DeWitt, who was the robot builder on
Mhm.
this, who, again, somebody on Evolve's team was like, we know the guy. And they went to Davis, found him, and he was like, yeah, I can build that for you. Absolutely. And he kept bringing things to the table that I was like, what do you mean we can change the lights on his face in the middle of it? His antenna can move around? Like, what are we making? And so he kind of just kept opening the possibility of what could be made. And then also, I had a dream of him being kind of a one wheel thing. And then Davis was like, well, we can't do that because he needs a gyroscope inside, but we can do this. And so he helped shape the design of what it turned into be, which is kind of a three-wheel robot that can move around. He can move his head. He can move his antenna to indicate a motion. He can change his light colors for different modes, which we enter like Newt mode a couple different times in the film.
Oh
So
my
Newt then
gosh.
started informing like story decisions. And then in post, he kind of was a savior because there were moments that we were like,
Mhm.
what are we going to do? We don't have a shot for that. We can cut to Newt and Newt can say something because his
Yes.
mouth isn't moving. So we can have him say whatever we want. And so that
Yes.
became a saving grace for everybody because we could always rely on Newt to save the day if we needed to. So he became everybody's favorite character on set. I would talk to him because Davis would be over in the corner controlling him, but he felt really real. And so I would give camera direction to Newt and speak to him like he was an actor, and Davis would just be like, "I got it. I'll do that." I'm like, "Right, okay."
You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was weird because he just felt like a real being when he was on set. So he was really special. He's probably as a director,
Mhm.
my favorite part of the film was like we get
Yeah.
a robot, and I'm a nerd and I love Star Wars, and so having a robot in your movie is like the dream, you know?
I love that so much. And I love that it was practical, that you guys actually went and built this thing. I think that's really, really cool. And I was going to ask you what it was like to direct a robot. So that's fun to hear, that he just,
Well, and we
felt like
thought
a regular
he
kid.
was going to be really hard. Like I
Yeah.
think when you're planning an indie movie, you're looking at schedule and you're looking at budget, and you're like, if we have a lot of kids who haven't really been in movies, that's going to slow us down. We have this robot that's like a wild card. We have no idea. He's going to shut down all the time. And it ended up being that Newt was our maybe most reliable character because he always hit his marks. He
Yeah.
always knew we knew exactly what Newt was going to do, and he stuck to the plan. And Davis was just very dialed about it all. So he ended up becoming on set as well, like a really reliable character to direct. And Davis would always throw something fun in the mix that he would give him like a little sad reaction. And I'd be like, that's just so great. And so, no notes for Newt, hardly ever, because he was just so fun.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Also, why is it that when robots, I'm like the little robot sad heads, I'm like, it's always so,
Mhm.
it's just gets you know what I mean?
It's Wally.
Um,
It's Wally. It all started with Wally, and now we're all here, and we're like, oh, it's just it. We're predisposed to really feel that way now.
I think you're right. I think you're right. So this film, the story is obviously it's a fictional story, um, but I'd like to talk about maybe any real world inspiration that inspired the premise of the Lightning Code. Um, I'd love to know just there's three different themes that I kind of wanted to ask about. So one would be the energy and technology realm. What inspired you to explore that in this film?
I think
Does anyone like,
I
what's
mean,
it
yeah, go
I
ahead.
would say,
Go for it,
like
Joel.
Rose, that your dad was like, I want this, and he just loved
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah. I think that part of it was so Andy is or Andrew, the lead of the film who plays Miles is my brother. And so this really did start off as like a family project that we now consider Kaylee and obviously Evolve and Joel as part of that family as well. So it ended up being a family project as well. But Andy has always been very interested in inventing. This is kind of his wheelhouse. And so when we were talking about potentially making a project together, doing another project with Evolve, bringing Kaylee in, and allowing Andy to come in and show what he could do, it made sense to cater to something that he was already very familiar with and something that he loved and could be passionate about. So I think that that's kind of where the idea of, and he was very fascinated by Tesla, by Nikola Tesla, and so it just made a lot of sense to go that direction for from the inventing standpoint and kind of the energy
Yeah.
thing. But other than that, I have no idea what possessed us to do something so high concept and so technologically particular. Because God bless Kaylee and our consultant who came in and critiqued and said, that's not the right phrase, because I would have no idea how to do any of it.
I love that.
when Julian first kind of pitched us on the story, he said, this is really before um, the Tesla name and Elon Musk and all that was household. And most people know Thomas Edison, at least, in American history, it's always Thomas Edison. But Nikolai Tesla was right there with him. And so in kind of inspired, historical fiction pitch was, what if Tesla actually had the secret to perpetual energy, but he
Yeah.
never finished it? And I think that was a great place to kind of start a film plot, right? It's like, well, what if it was there? Because
Yeah.
that just opens up this whole fun tangent that you can go down of like, well, here's what it was, and here's what he did find, and so much of the technology or terminology that we're using in the film is inspired by actual history and Tesla's work. We did have to create what I would call fake facts, which would be like, and you can harness the ionosphere just by doing this, and so kind of using some of his theory. This is the fun of filmmaking, right? And so
Yeah.
using his theories and then embellishing and saying, well, hey, if you just had more throughput in a conductor and a capacitor, and you could harness it in a new way, and you would use a interval of 369, which was a number that Tesla famously used all the time. We kind of built
Yeah.
the whole story around that. So it was fun to play with history in this kind of fiction way. But it did, I think the movie does speak to us. We wanted it in a kind of pre-dystopian world. So, it's
Hmm.
not like Mad Max or completely, scorched earth era of society. But it is in a era, that's not too far or not too far in the near distant future, right? Like at one point, I think in one of our edits, we had a text panel that said that. And the idea is energy, there is an energy crisis. It is a
Hmm.
hot topic. People are talking about it. Society, economies, they are on the ledge a little bit. People don't know. There's always climate conversations. Is it this? Is it that? What is it? What do you do? So we kind of took all of those things, those pressures, those real world issues that are relevant today, and we kind of played to them. And so the world is set in an era that wouldn't, potentially, hypothetically, gas is starting to be rationed, and they're rationing power, and there's, you know, regular blackouts just to make sure that energy is conserved, and the big corporations are trying to go find the big solve of the next battery technology and or the next
Hmm.
energy technology. These are all things that are happening right now. So it felt like a fun world to play in, to have a hero's journey in, and to see a young man who's ultimately trying to prove to himself, prove to his family, prove to others that he has worth. And so stories are always need to be grounded in characters and their journeys and the change that they go through. But the world that you build in a film is really important. We
Yeah.
also had budgetary limitations, so we needed to go to a dump and pull a bunch of free electronic components and like build the workshop and have it not cost
Wow.
$1 million. So it kind of we were writing and molding and crafting the script with the feasibility of production. Hey, can we actually afford this? Can we actually make it? So the two were kind of done in parallel.
Yeah. Oh.
I
Um,
do think that
so,
really quick,
oh,
just
go
to
ahead.
add to that, I know that this is
Yeah,
so silly to add, but I do think that
do it.
just to piggyback on that, Joel, that's the beauty of little films like this and independent films like this is that you have to get creative. And it feels like it has so much heart because it does, because we poured so much time into it. We had to get very creative with going to the junkyard and doing things a different way. And we poured so much time into it. And it just really ended up having so much heart. Whereas, obviously you can go and have these fantastic, huge spectacles that the huge studios can give you. We can't provide that level of massive spectacle, although our VFX team absolutely killed it and is up there with the best. But we had to compromise and we had to find clever solutions for things. And I think that that's part of the reason that I ended up loving the film so much and being so proud of it, is because every single person on the team was dedicated to making sure it was the best it could possibly be, to not cutting corners, and to finding creative solutions to problems that we were bumping into. So, anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that was awesome. I'm glad you shared that. I wanted to ask a little bit about we kind of naturally let ourselves here, but you guys have told us like, it was a smaller budget, and kind of a big idea. Can you tell us more about experiences where you had to innovate and make it all come together? Um, yeah, because I mean, watching it,
I'll
it feels like a
share. I
big
know
movie.
that has I know Joel probably has a gajillion examples as well, but one of the things that I think of in terms of innovating on a small budget was the finale sequence. And
Mm.
there is no location that we shot in. We shot that in, I think, five different locations because every piece of it needed to feed into the next, and we couldn't find any of those spots in one place. We would never be able to afford a huge, gigantic warehouse of that size and that spread and with that much art that would need to be dressed. And so we did get really creative in terms of location for scale because
Mm.
that warehouse doesn't exist in Nashville. And so we had to film half of it in Nashville, and then part of it was filmed in the studio for a few inserts. And then
Oh,
another part
wow.
of it, we drove to Chattanooga to film the huge exterior shots to piece everything together. And that was really indie filmmaking mode. We called it the Nuga unit because I think Joel DP'd it. And so it was like a tiny
Oh,
crew
wow.
and body doubles and Andy, and we went and we were like, we need this industrial post like pre-apocalyptic thing, and that doesn't exist where we live, but we can drive a couple hours at like early morning and do it in like a day and and have the sequence. And so we had this abandoned warehouse that's massive and looks awesome. So any shot that you see that's scale and looks huge, it's a body double for the characters except for Andy, and we shot it not in Nashville. So that to me was a
Oh,
really
wow.
creative solve because we needed scale and we didn't have it, so we went and got it.
Yeah. Wow. I'm excited to watch this movie again with some of these like little nuggets for you guys. Any other ways that you guys can think of that you had to innovate to bring this all together?
Yeah, I think that, the state of the movie industry and television is really challenging right now because there's so much content everywhere. Everyone has kind of went into their own different playlists and streams, and there's so many different devices and platforms, and um, there's never been more content being produced in history ever, and that's an exciting thing for storytellers. Um, but it's also a challenging thing. And you see the big studios spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're struggling to connect with audiences and with their fans and getting people to come out to see films and to watch things. And they're having a hard time connecting. And then you've got all these independent filmmakers, but then also just independent storytellers, YouTube and podcast and Twitch and so many other things. And they're actually really connecting strongly with their audiences, but they're much smaller audiences, and they have a hard time putting different small audiences together to make larger audiences, and they're also struggling, with budgets and financing to see bigger ideas or larger productions or better quality come to life. So it's this weird time for the industry, and so we're really convinced at our studio and our whole team, every filmmaker on the Lightning Code, that just sitting around and wishing just isn't how we want to go about this. We just don't
Hmm.
want to sit there and say, well, if we had more, it would be better. We're just committed to trying and to staying innovative and saying what has to be true for us to do the absolute best that we can. And so when you have a big idea like this, the only way to pull it off is to team up with others. It's partnerships. Partnerships is the key. And so at every level, we had friends and favors and partners and trying to find other people who would be mutually invested to see this thing come to life. We shot some of the first virtual volume LED stage work in a feature film in
Oh.
Tennessee. We partnered with a company called View Studio. They have LED volume stages. These are like the big virtual stages that you've seen on The Mandalorian and Percy Jackson. Everyone loves these
Hmm.
things. They're these gorgeous, immersive virtual productions. Well, there was one in Nashville, and we shot this. It was the first time they had a feature narrative, scripted project on
Wow.
the stage. They were incredible partners. Um, they gave us all sorts of access and opportunity that commercially would be a lot more challenging. And they were really invested. They wanted to see how far we could push the technology, and our artists worked together to build those worlds. And I'm curious if anyone watching this can tell like what's virtual, what's not. We just pulled off some incredible work there, and and again, that's a value thing that you're only getting on a 25, 50, $100 million project. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
And we were able to pull it off for way less. Another huge partnership would be our visual effects partner, Tower
Mm.
33 Visual Effects. They're executive producers and co-executive producers of the film. Kyle Gordon and El Sazerath, they were really excited to be a part of an original project, not just as a services company, not just coming in to do the VFX to be hired, but to actually invest and have equity in something and say, hey, like, this is a cool story. We see the vision. We see that you want to do something unique. You want to make a movie for families. The story's interesting. We want to be a part of that. So through such a strategic partnership, they pulled off over 600 visual effects shots, and certainly weren't paid the going rate cash value for those shots. They did
Yeah.
incredible work for us. Their team sacrificed at a really massive scale to bring all this to life. And they also were incredibly collaborative with our team because we had artists on our team. Our senior artist Ryan Traumer and Tim Harwell and many others worked on this as well. So they were really doing this like a true team and a true partnership would. And none of that exists. Like the movie doesn't exist. You'll sit back and watch it and go, "Oh, that was fun. It was interesting." Whatever. Hopefully people love it. But you won't know that every one of those shots, maybe 8 people worked on for a week, to bring that to
Yeah.
life and to actually pull that off. So couldn't have done it without that level of partnership and investment. If you have big dreams, if you have big goals, if you're trying to create something bigger than what you can do on your own, you have to team up. You have to trust others and work with others, which again is some of the themes in the actual story of this. And I love
Yeah.
that it was so parallel. So it was cool.
Yeah. And I think too that there were so many partnerships, like you said, on screen as well. Obviously, there were tons of partnerships off screen that we were trying to make sure that this felt as big as it could possibly be. Tower 33 was definitely a big on-screen partnership, but I think too there were other on-screen partnerships that you don't often think of. Like the casting director was a personal friend of ours who came in and really donated some of her time. Ricky Masler, she's wonderful, and she came in and really helped us out with some of the casting. Casey Clyde, who plays Miles's dad, who is one of my favorite characters, probably aside from Newt. He just brought such a gravity to the role that I don't think we would have
Mhm.
found if we had gone with anyone else. And I'm just so grateful because he was a personal friend and he showed up for it. So like Joel said, it really just is all about partnerships and friendships, and those are the relationships that are going to bring you over the line and get you over the finish line and make sure that you can, you're not going to be able to go up against Disney and Marvel in these huge films, but you can create something that has just as much heart and can create a huge impact in people's lives. And I think that that's so special that we get to all be a part of that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
good.
think it's cool. I feel like since we, started together today, there's that theme of partnership and working
Mhm.
together to bring this to life. And I think that's really special that, there were so many people that cared a lot about this story and wanted it to be told and were willing to kind of um, pitch in and help make it happen. And you guys did a great job. I mean, I watched it. I enjoyed it as a third party viewer. It was really really cool to watch, and I'm excited again to see it now, having some perspective from our conversation today. Were there any scenes that maybe in particular that were on the volume stage or maybe had um, VFX shots, or can you talk me through one scene that was like this could not have been done without these partners that you had?
So many.
Is there one that's like a
Yeah, I mean,
fave?
the whole film. The you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I
I was gonna, I mean,
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, yeah,
Joel,
Kaylee.
I feel like it's a lot of them, obviously, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think the big ones are probably all of the machine pieces
Mhm.
And those are such a blend of everybody on set. You've got art department that has built this machine and placed it. You've got the lighting team who's designed their lights to react to the way that they're supposed to react to effects that are non-existent, and they're just
Yeah.
kind of trusting that that's going to work and be like, okay, at this point the light turns red. Okay, so now everything turns red. Hopefully we've shot everything where the light is green, because otherwise we've changed all the lights. And so the actors also
Yeah.
have to know what's going on and be dialed in, because they're going to be reacting to changes that are happening that aren't on screen, that they will never see until the movie comes out. So I think for me, anything where you see a machine was just a huge collaborative process, because that took a lot of trust all around, from actors to art department to crew to DP and cinematographers, and to then trust us to get it into post and make the scene work, but then pass that off to visual effects artists to actually make the shot work in general. So I think the middle shot, when the Phoenix turns on, the purple beam goes into the sky, it's in the trailer a lot. That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite scene, because it's the first time you see the scale and the scope, and the camera moves are awesome, and the
Mm,
actors' reactions are great, and the lighting is on their faces. It's a great. And then it just gets better when you get to the final machine. So to me, those are just perfect examples of the type of collaboration that Joel and Rose are talking about, because that those scenes don't exist if you didn't have every single piece of the puzzle lined up well.
that's so true. There's so much more that goes on than I think we as viewers think about. There's so many players, so many pieces that just really bring it to life. Um, Rose, what was that like acting and having some of those pieces like not existing yet for like what was that like for you?
It's always, like Kaylee said, there's so much trust involved in it because
Yeah.
um, you have to be able to communicate with your director and really fully understand what the vision is, because you could be reacting very differently than you could think you're reacting the way you ought to be reacting, because a lesser director might just say, I mean, there's going to be a beam that goes up into the sky and you're really shocked by the beam, and then you're like, okay, cool, shock. So does that, like, am I scared of the beam? What's happening? Like, is this like a scary situation? There's so many different ways. And so you have to have so much trust with the people that you're working with. Kaylee did a really good job of explaining what it was going to look like in post, even though she, I'm sure, was like, I don't, VFX is going to do it in the end. Like, I've just got to like paint the picture for this cast right now. But yeah, it's always really alarming to really put yourself on the line like that, especially because acting is a silly thing. We dress up in clothes that aren't ours, and people put on our makeup and they hold an umbrella over us when it's like too sunny, and you're like, please don't do that. Like, it makes me, like, I feel silly. You're having to work for me. It's a very silly thing. It feels like playing dress up the whole time. And I think that it really, I think people think that, and it can be a very glamorous thing at times, but most of the time, I would say, in my experience, it's been a very humbling thing, because you just have to be okay with being silly, and you have to be okay with not taking yourself too seriously, because you're going to gasp and ooh and ah at this thing that's not really happening, and to everyone else
Yeah.
around you, you're there, there's nothing happening, and you're just like pretending like you're seeing the coolest thing that you've ever seen in your life. And so it's a wild experience all around, but you have to, like Kaylee said, have so much trust in your cinematographer, that your cinematographer isn't going to make you look terrible. You have to have trust in your director that uh, they've led you in the right direction, and that you're not going to look stupid on camera later because you had the wrong reaction, or that they're not going to let you move on if you did have the wrong reaction. And then you have to trust your post team to come in and make it the director's vision. So it is just, yeah, like Haley said, all about trust, but it's a very silly thing on the day for sure. You feel very ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm wondering, I mean, Kaylee, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but how did you kind of cultivate that trust on set with your actors and with the team to kind of bring it all together?
It's a lot of moving parts. And so you're trying to, I think what Rose is saying with the communication part of that And I probably hadn't up to that point. In fact, I'm sure I hadn't. But I I had in my mind exactly what these beams and effects were going to look like, but I hadn't been able to put it on paper with them. So there is an element of trying to be well spoken and be able to give your vision to actors, but it's also a collaborative thing where Rose just has to believe me that there's the beam shooting up from this thing and it's gonna look cool and the clouds are gonna be swirling and it's gonna be like a tornado up there. And she's like, great, and does it, you know? So I think that it part of that is just it's a 50-50 split because I can do the best thing explaining what it's going to be, and Rose and to accept that and ingest it and react accordingly. So um, that trust definitely goes both ways. There are certain things like this sounds so silly. Like I'm off camera going like, and beam goes like into the sky, and like I'm like trying to help, and they're like, this is not helping. So I like try to assist and I'm like, okay, in my lane back here and let the AD yell that that's what's happening. So um, that's a very long-winded answer, and all
Yeah,
that to
no.
say, I'm grateful when they do trust me with these kinds of projects and these kinds of scenes because they are really hard. If you don't have the effects of a previs of anything, then you really don't know what's about to happen.
Yeah,
And two for me.
yeah.
Am
Well,
I
thank you
frozen
guys.
on screen?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little bit.
Well,
Your images, but I can hear you. Oh, there
oh,
you
there
are.
Yeah,
we
there we go.
Hey.
You're back. Hello.
No, you're good.
there
I
we
could
go.
hear
I'm
you,
back.
but it was kind of, yeah.
We got it all.
Welcome back. Well,
It's
thank you
not
guys for
filmmaking
sharing.
without technical difficulties.
I
It's
know.
Exactly.
always.
Really isn't.
Welcome to live streams too. Well, thank you guys so much for, sharing so much insight with us tonight. One thing that I'd love to kind of, as we're wrapping up our time together, hear from you about is what you hope people are going to take away from this film. So when they see it, um, I mean, is there anything that you're just like, this matters so much. I hope they get this from that. Joel, can we maybe start with you?
Yeah. I think that, like we talked about, we made the movie as an experience for families together. And there are some themes here and some really important lessons, um, that I'm very passionate about personally. I'm a dad. I have children. I see them grow up. I've got, two teenagers and a little one. And you see them grow up, you see them be ambitious, you see them learn things, learn how to create things and make things and do things. You see their eyes get wide. You see um, them develop the ability of like, well, I can make stuff, I can do things. And then you kind of sometimes see that pride and that ego and that individualism, and I don't need to work together, I can just do it myself. And these are really important themes: learning to work together, learning to have integrity, learning to have courage, learning to question what you're told from society. I think that this is all a part of growing up, and these are stories that matter. I think we as storytellers and filmmakers want to put stories into culture that are going to unify culture and create a society that thrives and works together and learns to love one another. I think these are really important things, and this movie and its storyline and its characters have this woven throughout it. And we have it kind of wrapped in a action adventure, this sci-fi action adventure that is through the lens of kids trying to go up against the evil corporation, but all while having to figure it out together and go on their own journeys and learn how to trust each other. There's a lot of they learn a lot about forgiveness. Miles, the main character, really has to go. I don't want to do any spoilers here, but he has to learn how to seek forgiveness. Um,
Mhm.
and these are just really important things. And so I think that we've crafted a movie. I would hope that has something to offer everyone in the family, There's there's humor, there's entertainment, there's some action, there's some dramatic high stakes, and there's also some really important life lessons that I hope that a family could sit down together and, if you give us 2 hours of your precious time, that there would be some laughs, some fun, but also some lessons. And ultimately, time and how we spend it, it's our most precious resource. And so we take it very seriously if we're going to ask someone to give us that and to sit and to watch this, that we want to leave our audience, leave our viewers better off and give them something not only that entertained them and gave them some enjoyment and something to talk about and laugh about, but also to go, wow, there are some real important themes and some things that I needed to be reminded of, or if the children are very young, like be taught. And I think there's a lot of senseless content out there where it's just kind of mind numbing, kind of senseless, and we want to make things that matter. So yeah, I have a lot that I would hope that people would take from this when they watch it.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Do either anybody else have anything that they hope audience will take from it?
Yes, definitely. I think that one of my favorite things about this actually, and I was thinking about this recently when I heard that we were going to get to do this live stream, and thank you everyone so much for tuning in and watching this. But yeah, something that I really love about this project is that I think that it will, or I hope it will, embolden young audiences to take the unconventional route. I think that Miles really, he doesn't go the conventional route in a lot of his inventions and how he tries to market them. Again, no spoilers. Thank you, Joel, for reminding me we're not doing that. But he really takes the unconventional route, and I think that that's it's really special to get to see that. And I like too that he has so much humility about it. He does take the unconventional route, and sometimes it doesn't work out in his favor, and he has to have the humility to eventually say, okay, maybe that wasn't the right way, maybe I should have listened to you on that. But yeah, I think that those are the two things that were really, really special to me when we were honing the story together. I don't even remember if it's something, Kaylee, that we originally, if it was in the first draft or not, but I'm so happy it ended up being in the final draft.
Awesome. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that. Kaylee, was there
agreed.
anything from,
Well,
yeah.
we can't say anymore. I don't know if I'm.
Oh no, Kaylee.
Oh no. This is how you know it's live.
Can you guys hear me now? I feel like
SOS.
I'm
I
lagging.
don't think
Okay,
that the flux capacitor is working right, Kaylee.
Oh,
Might
no.
need
Yeah.
to
Yeah, it
rewire
really
the.
is. No, I feel like I need to just like mute my camera. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if
Yes.
you can hear me,
We
We
can
love
hear
you,
you.
Kaylee.
Old school.
okay. Well, if you can
Nice.
hear me, then
Oh
that's
yeah.
all right. We'll see if it works for like 5 seconds before we have to go. The only thing that I add to that is there's a quote that I love that is it's from West Wing, but I think it's Churchill, and he says, uh, "Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world because it's the only thing that." I think that that would be something I'd love for young people to walk away with at the end of this, is that no matter if you're small, no matter what your background is, that you do have the capacity to change the world, even if it's just your immediate world and your immediate community. So
Oh,
Good.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You guys, this film, I'm so excited for everybody to see it. It's so good. It does leave you feel, I mean, you get the laughs, you get the feels, you leave feeling um, inspired. So great job. And thank you so much for, um, I don't know, telling the story so that it can be enjoyed and so many people can see it. And thank you,
I don't know if
to the
any of that
Angel
came through.
Guild. Thank you guys to the
Oh
Angel
no, there
Guild.
goes my light.
Oh no, we worried this would happen. It's
Yes,
okay.
we
I'm
did.
dark
I didn't
too,
charge
so
it.
it's okay.
Classic day of
Um,
film. Just everything
come
breaks at
on.
the end of the day. It's good.
It's it's all good. We're giving the audience at home a little taste of what it's like. Um, but thank you guys so much, the Angel Guild, you guys at home that, voted on this film, that wanted to see it. We could not be here without you guys. If you haven't watched The Lightning Code yet, you should go do that right after this stream. You just go to angel.com/lightninglive, or scan that QR code to see it. I'm sure we'll also have links in the description, so make sure you check that out. And then if you guys have any desire to see what's coming up next, just go to Evolve Studio Socials or Angel Socials for more information on what's coming soon. But thank you guys so much for joining us. This was such a treat, and so special to hear about some of the behind the scenes of the making of the Lightning Code. We really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Our pleasure. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, we're always happy to be here for Angel.
Oh, you guys are the best. Well, those of you at home, thank you for joining us as well. It's always a wonderful time spending the evening with you. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Again, go check out the Lightning Code at angel.com/lightninglive. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
How many times a day do you flip a switch to power up one of your magical devices? Television, video games, your smartphone.
This is test 84 of the Atom Particle Liberator.
None of it would be possible without this guy.
3, 6, 9.
Well, sort of. He changed the way we harness energy. His name was Nikola Tesla, and he was one of the greats. But he never achieved his ultimate goal, capturing lightning.
If only I could harness it into a consistent beam, we would have perpetual, limitless power.
A lot has changed since then. You and I aren't the only ones powering up our devices, and it takes a lot of energy to keep the magic going. Energy that we're running out of. There just isn't enough to go around. The whole world is on low power mode. But fear not, I have a plan. I just need a few key components and a little faith. I'm gonna finish Tesla's work and harness the power of lightning.
Now streaming exclusively on Angel.